My name is Elena Whitmore. I'm 26 years old. I'm writing this from my childhood bedroom, staring at a wall lined with dusty participation trophies, soccer, debate club, choir, and wondering how a relationship that felt so steady could disappear in a single afternoon. If you're expecting some explosive betrayal or dramatic cheating reveal, this isn't that story. This is the story of how I lost a good man because I listened to the wrong woman. And yes, she's my mother. When I walked back into my boyfriend's apartment 4 hours after storming out, I wasn't prepared for what I saw. 4 cardboard boxes, neatly stacked, labeled, my clothes folded, my books wrapped carefully so the spines wouldn't bend. Even my toiletries placed in a separate bag, like he didn't want my shampoo leaking onto my sweaters. He was sitting on the couch when I froze in the doorway, calm, quiet, the same way he'd always been. "What is this?" I asked, my voice already shaking. "You said you were leaving," he replied evenly. "I assumed you meant it." That was the moment my stomach dropped. Because I hadn't meant it. I'd meant to be chased. Let me rewind. I'd been with Daniel Mercer for 2 years. He was 28, an early riser, the kind of man who showed love in quiet, practical ways, meal prepped on Sundays, remembered my coffee order without asking, fixed my laptop himself when I couldn't afford a replacement, never raised his voice, not once, in our entire relationship. We moved into his apartment 8 months ago. It wasn't flashy, but it was peaceful, and until recently, I thought that was enough. But my mother didn't. "He's too comfortable," she'd say every time I visited home. "A man who really loves you should be terrified of losing you." "We don't fight, Mom," I told her once. "That's a good thing." She smiled the way she always did when she thought I was naive. "No, sweetheart. That means he's complacent." I should have remembered that my mother had been divorced twice. I didn't. Instead, I let her voice crawl into my head. Every unanswered text. Every night he was tired instead of romantic. Every moment of stability suddenly felt like neglect. 2 weeks ago, she came to visit us. She watched us interact, noted everything. How Daniel kissed my forehead instead of my lips. How he went to bed early because he worked at 6 a.m. That Sunday night, after he fell asleep, she pulled me aside. "You need to test him." I laughed. "That's manipulative." She called it protection. "Every woman in our family has done it," she said. "My grandmother tested my grandfather the same way. They were married 52 years. I didn't know then that those marriages weren't happy. I only knew I was tired of feeling unsure. So last Tuesday I picked a fight. Something stupid, accusing him of not planning anything special for our anniversary, 6 weeks away. He looked genuinely confused. "Elena, I already made reservations," he said gently. "I showed you last week." "That's not the point," I snapped. "You don't make me feel special anymore." He didn't get defensive. He didn't raise his voice. He just asked, "What do you need me to do differently?" That wasn't the script. So I escalated. "You know what? Forget it. I'm leaving. Maybe when I'm gone, you'll realize what you had." I grabbed my purse, slammed the door, and waited in a grocery store parking lot for 4 hours. No calls, no texts, no chasing. When I came back, my life was packed into boxes. "I don't chase people who play games," Daniel said quietly. "That's manipulation. I don't do manipulation." I cried, I begged, I blamed my mother. He looked at me with something worse than anger. Pity. "You're 26, he said. "You made the choice." And then he asked me to leave. I drove straight to my parents' house and collapsed into my mother's arms. She didn't hesitate. "Good," she said. "Now you know he never really loved you." I didn't answer. Because somewhere deep down, I already knew the truth. I didn't sleep that night. I lay awake in my childhood bed, staring at glow-in-the-dark stars still stuck to the ceiling from when I was 10, listening to my mother's steady breathing through the thin wall between our rooms. She slept peacefully. I didn't, because somewhere between her arms tightening around me and her saying, "Good, now you know he never really loved you," something inside me had gone very quiet. Not broken, not angry, just alert. The next morning, my mother moved through the kitchen like a general who'd just won a strategic battle. Coffee brewed too strong. Toast burned slightly, her voice sharp with certainty. "Any man who can pack your things that fast was looking for an excuse," she declared, scrolling on her phone. "He was emotionally unavailable. You dodged a bullet." I stared into my mug. "Or," I said softly, "he just has boundaries." She didn't hear me. She was already typing. I realized what she was doing when she turned her phone toward me, pride glowing on her face. I texted him. My stomach dropped. "What?" She read it out loud, as if it were a perfectly reasonable thing to do. "This is her mother. I think you owe my daughter an apology for how you treated her. She made one small mistake and you threw away 2 years like it was nothing. Real men fight for the women they love. I nearly choked on my coffee. Why would you do that? Because someone has to tell him the truth. No, Mom, I said, my voice shaking. That's not the truth. That's your version of it. She waved me off. Men like him need to be called out. 20 minutes later, his response came. She read it silently first. Her smile vanished. Then she shoved the phone at me. Ma'am, your daughter admitted she played psychological games at your suggestion. I don't owe anyone an apology for having self-respect. Please don't contact me again. The words burned, but they didn't feel unfair. They felt accurate. He's arrogant, my mother snapped. The audacity of that man. He's right, I whispered. That's when the argument really started. She accused me of letting him win, of being brainwashed by modern relationship nonsense, of disrespecting the wisdom of women who knew how men worked. In my day, she said, men understood women needed to be pursued. That's when my father finally spoke. He'd been sitting at the table, silent, newspaper folded in his hands. That's funny, he said calmly. I remember you testing me the same way. The room froze. You walked out to see if I'd chase you, he continued. I did. Over and over. And we got divorced because you never stopped playing games. The silence was deafening. You taught our daughter the same tactics that destroyed our marriage, he said quietly. Maybe it's time to admit your advice doesn't work. My mother stood up so abruptly her chair scraped the floor. This is different, she snapped. It's not, my father replied. She left the room. Didn't speak to either of us for 2 days. In that silence, something shifted inside me. I stopped trying to rewrite what had happened. And I did the one thing my mother hadn't taught me how to do. I took responsibility. I sent Daniel a single message. No excuses, no manipulation, no tests. I know you probably don't want to hear from me, but I want to apologize sincerely. What I did was wrong. You didn't deserve to be tested. I let someone else's toxic ideas poison our relationship, but I made the choice. I'm sorry. I wish you well. He replied hours later. I appreciate the apology. I hope you find what you're looking for. Please don't contact me again. It hurt, but it was clean. When my mother found out I'd apologized, she exploded. You groveled to him after how he humiliated you? He didn't humiliate me, I said. I humiliated myself. I didn't raise you to be a doormat. You raised me to play games, I replied quietly. That's worse. She didn't answer. Instead, she started calling relatives, telling her story. By the end of the week, my phone wouldn't stop ringing, and every call felt heavier than the last. By the end of the week, I realized something unsettling. My breakup hadn't just ended a relationship. It had become a story. And I wasn't the one telling it. My aunt called first. Oh, honey, she sighed into the phone, voice thick with sympathy. I'm so sorry about your terrible ex. I closed my eyes. He's not terrible, I said. It wasn't like that. There was a pause, the kind where you can hear someone reassessing you. Well, your mother said he kicked you out without warning. That was the moment I understood what was happening. My mother wasn't grieving. She was curating. By the end of the day, my grandmother called. Then a cousin. Then a family friend I hadn't spoken to in years. Each version more dramatic than the last. He must have been cheating. Men like that don't leave unless there's another woman. You're too good for someone so heartless. Every time I corrected them. Every time I could see it in their voices. They didn't quite believe me. Because my mother had gotten there first. And in their minds, a daughter defending the man who abandoned her could only mean one thing. I was in denial. The worst moment came 3 days later. My younger sister, Marissa, called me late at night. She's 23, sharp, protective, loyal to a fault. I texted Daniel, she said. My heart lurched. Why? Because Mom told me what he did to you, she snapped. I wanted to give him a piece of my mind. There was a long silence on the line. Then she said quietly, he replied. What did he say? She read it verbatim. I have no interest in discussing this. Your sister admitted she played a manipulation game your mother taught her. I chose not to participate. If your family wants to make me a villain for having boundaries, that's your choice. Marissa didn't speak for several seconds. Wait, she said slowly. Mom told you to do that? I swallowed. Yes. Another pause. Then, that's actually really messed up. Her words landed harder than all the others. You know, she continued, voice quieter now, Mom did the same thing to Dad. And to her second husband. I frowned. What do you mean? She used to walk out to see if they'd chase her, Marissa said. I found one of her old journals once. She didn't think I read it. My chest tightened. What journal? Just pages of advice. Stuff like, make him jealous to keep him interested, and if he doesn't chase, he doesn't love you. The room felt suddenly very small. My entire childhood, reframed. All the romantic wisdom, all the warnings about men getting too comfortable, all the praise for chaos disguised as passion. I thought it was normal, Marissa whispered. But now, I don't know. Neither did I. 2 weeks later, things escalated. I found out through a mutual friend that Daniel had started seeing someone new. A nurse, 27, apparently kind, low drama, normal. It had only been 3 weeks since we broke up. He didn't owe me time. I knew that. My mother didn't. 3 weeks, she scoffed. That proves he never loved you. Or, I said, exhausted, it proves he checked out when I started playing games. She stared at me like I'd slapped her. And then she did something I still can't fully wrap my head around. She found the new woman on social media, and she messaged her. I didn't know until Daniel forwarded me a screenshot. You should know the man you're seeing kicked out his girlfriend of 2 years for no reason. He's emotionally abusive and manipulative. Be careful. I felt physically sick. I called my mother immediately. What is wrong with you? I demanded. I'm protecting other women. You're harassing a stranger, I said. You're lying. The truth isn't defamation. That's not the truth. She hung up on me. An hour later, Daniel texted. I need your mother to stop contacting people in my life. This is harassment. I don't want to involve lawyers, but I will if necessary. My hands were shaking as I typed my apology. And for the first time, I understood something terrifying. This wasn't about me anymore. This was about control. And my mother was losing it. Telling my mother to stop should have ended it. It didn't. It poured gasoline on something that had been smoldering for decades. I drove to her house the next morning. My hands clenched so tightly around the steering wheel, my knuckles ached. I'd rehearsed the conversation the entire way there, telling myself to stay calm, to be firm, to finally say the things I'd swallowed my whole life. She was in the kitchen when I arrived, phone in hand, pacing. Mom, I said, cutting her off before she could speak, your advice destroyed my relationship. Your test was manipulative, and Daniel saw right through it. Now you're harassing people who have nothing to do with us. This needs to stop. Her eyes filled instantly. I was trying to help you. No, I said, my voice shaking despite myself. You were trying to be right. There's a difference. She looked at me like I'd betrayed her. How dare you talk to me like that? You don't get to play victim, I said quietly. 2 divorces, a trail of broken relationships, and instead of looking inward, you taught me and Marissa to repeat your patterns. Her face crumpled. You're choosing him over your own mother. I'm choosing reality over your delusions, I replied. And if you contact him or anyone in his life again, I'm going no contact. She didn't respond. She just cried. I left believing, stupidly, that maybe I'd finally gotten through to her. 3 days later, Daniel sent me another screenshot. My mother had created a fake profile. She was messaging his new girlfriend again, this time with what she called evidence. Vague claims. Twisted interpretations, screenshots taken out of context. The new girlfriend didn't respond privately. She posted it publicly. To whoever's mother keeps messaging me about my boyfriend, I've seen the texts. I know what actually happened. Your daughter admitted to playing games. He did nothing wrong. Please seek therapy and leave us alone. The post spread faster than I could process. Local groups, comment threads, shared screenshots. People started asking questions. And then, the comment that changed everything. My mother's second husband, the man she divorced 8 years ago. This tracks, he wrote. She tried the same manipulation games on me throughout our marriage. Walking out to test me was her favorite. I finally stopped chasing after the 15th time. She filed for divorce a month later, saying I didn't love her enough. 15th. The number echoed in my head. The comment section exploded. Other women chimed in. Friends, acquaintances, people I barely knew. Apparently, my mother had been coaching them for years. And apparently, her advice had detonated more relationships than anyone realized. My phone rang nonstop. Then my mother called, hysterical. They're destroying me online, she sobbed. I'm being bullied. You have to fix this. You created a fake profile to harass someone, I said, exhausted. After I told you to stop, these are consequences. I'm your mother, and I'm done cleaning up your messes. I hung up. The fallout was immediate. Her book club asked her to take a break. Her church small group leader suggested reflection. Friendships she'd had for decades went cold overnight. My dad called the next day. She's not taking it well, he said carefully. Won't stop crying. She harassed a stranger twice, I replied. What did she expect? He sighed. Just be careful. She'll try something dramatic. He was right. She checked herself into a spa retreat and posted about healing from betrayal. The comments weren't kind. She deleted the post within hours. For the first time in her life, her story didn't work. and there was nothing she could do about it. 2 months passed, not quietly but slower. The kind of slow that forces you to sit with what you've done instead of outrunning it. Daniel is doing well. He's still with the nurse. I know because someone told me, not because I asked. I stopped checking his social media weeks ago, not out of bitterness, out of self-preservation. He deserved better than the version of me that listened to bad advice and called it love. My mother, meanwhile, is humbled. For the first time in her life, her manipulation didn't land as charm or wisdom. It landed as what it actually was. Control. The community backlash didn't fade quickly. Her second husband's comment lingered like a stain that wouldn't wash out. People who'd known her for years started quietly re-examining everything she'd ever told them. Last month, according to my dad, she started therapy. Real therapy. Not a spa retreat. Not journaling with affirmations. Weekly sessions with a licensed therapist who specializes in attachment issues. I didn't hear it from her. That felt telling. We're on limited contact now. Short texts, occasional calls. The moment she starts giving advice or reframing the past, I end the conversation. She's learning slowly that her tactics don't work on me anymore. My dad and I have grown closer. One night, he admitted something that stayed with me. I should have warned you when you were younger, he said. I just didn't know how to explain it without bad-mouthing your mother. I understood that now. Marissa started therapy too. She's engaged to a genuinely good guy and terrified of sabotaging it. I almost tried to make him jealous last week, she admitted. Caught myself just in time. She laughed, but it sounded shaky. It's like deprogramming, she said. She wasn't wrong. As for me, I'm in therapy. We're unpacking the stories I grew up with. That love needs tests. That stability means indifference. That chaos equals passion. Turns out healthy love doesn't need to be proven. It just is. I ran into Daniel's best friend at a coffee shop a few weeks ago. Awkward doesn't begin to cover it. But he was kind. For what it's worth, he said, Daniel was pretty torn up about how things ended. He really did care about you. I nodded. I know, I said. I don't blame him. And I meant it. Here's what I learned. Tests don't prove love. They prove you don't trust it. A partner who stays through manipulation isn't demonstrating devotion. They're demonstrating a lack of boundaries. And a partner who leaves when you play games isn't proving they don't care. They're proving they respect themselves too much to live in chaos. I lost a good man because I listened to advice from someone who has never had a healthy relationship in her life. That part is on me. I made the choice. I pushed the button. But I also get to decide what happens next. I can break the cycle. I can choose therapy over manipulation, honesty over games, stability over drama. My mother still believes, deep down, that she was right. But she can't spread that poison as easily anymore. Her reputation took a hit. Her influence crumbled. The women she used to coach stopped listening. Sometimes consequences don't arrive in explosions. Sometimes they arrive quietly. Friendships cooling. Invitations stopping. Respect evaporating. Sometimes the worst punishment for a manipulator is simply being seen for what they really are. And sometimes, if you're brave enough, you learn from the wreckage instead of repeating it. I am.